You know, when you think of Sherlock Holmes, it's easy to picture him as some kind of magician, right? Like he has this superpower. But what if it's not magic at all? What if it's a method? A system that, believe it or not, we can actually break down and understand. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull back the curtain and really decode the method behind the master. And look at this quote from Dr. Watson. He doesn't say Holmes was the kindest guy or the most charming. Nope, he calls him a machine. And that one word, machine, that's everything. It's our key to unlocking this whole thing. It tells us we're looking at a mind that runs on cold, hard logic, a precise process. And that process starts in one very specific place. Okay, so here's the absolute foundation of it all, his ability to observe. And I want to be really clear here. Observing is a world away from just seeing. You and I, we see stuff all day long, right? But Holmes, he's different. He's actively scanning his environment for data. He's gathering facts where the rest of us, well, we just see empty space. And this right here, this is the perfect example. A guy named Jabez Wilson walks into their apartment. And Watson, he sees what we'd all see, right? An average, commonplace British tradesman, obese, pompous, and slow. Pretty standard. But Holmes? Oh man. Holmes looks at the same guy and sees a biography. He sees that this man has done manual labor, that he's a Freemason, that he's been to China, and that he's been doing a ton of writing lately. How is that even possible? I mean, seriously, how did he know? It sounds like some kind of psychic trick, doesn't it? It's the question that drives Watson absolutely crazy in the stories. Is he reading minds? Is it just a wild guess? Nope. It's a chain of logic, built link by tiny link. Let's break it down, because this is where the genius is. Each one of those big, flashy conclusions comes from a tiny, concrete detail. So how do you know the guy's been writing for hours? Easy. His right cuff is all shiny and worn down from resting on a desk. The Freemason thing, the guy's wearing an arc and compass pin, a well-known symbol of the order. And China? The fish tattoo on his wrist. Holmes knows that specific style of tattooing could only have been done in China. See? It's not magic at all. It's just brilliant data collection. So that's the first pillar of his method, right there. Observation. It's this art of pulling data out of things that seem completely unimportant to the rest of us. We're talking bootlaces, fingernails, the dust on someone's pants. Holmes once said a whole case could hang on a single bootlace. For him, the world is just this massive stream of information if you just train yourself to see it. Okay, so you've gathered all this data. You've got all these little facts. Now what? Well, that's just step one. Now you have to actually do something with it. And this is where we move from observation to the next stage, the science of deduction. This is all about connecting the dots that nobody else even sees. And for Holmes, the secret to deduction is this. Look for the weird stuff. Look for the one detail that just doesn't fit. He says that a totally normal, featureless crime is actually the hardest to solve because there's no way in. But something bizarre, something out of place? To Holmes, that's like a giant flashing neon sign pointing right to the answer. All right, let's see how this works in practice. How do you solve a murder when you've got almost nothing to go on? We're going to look at a quick case, the Boscombe Valley mystery. A man's been murdered, the police have hit a wall, and all Holmes has is one very cryptic clue. This is it. This is all he's got. The victim's last words were a shout of "cooey," and then this fragment, A-R-A-T. Now, to the local police, this is just meaningless noise. But to Sherlock Holmes, this is the whole solution, gift-wrapped. So, let's follow his brain. First, that sound, cooey. Holmes hears that and immediately knows what it is. It's not some random English yell. It's a very specific call used by people in Australia. Boom. Deduction number one. The victim wasn't just screaming in pain. He was signaling someone he knew, someone from Australia. Okay, now for the other piece. A rat. Holmes figures the poor guy wasn't trying to talk about a rodent. He was cut off in the middle of a word that was probably a place name, maybe the place his killer was from. So you've got someone from Australia and a place name that ends in a rat. Put them together and you get Ballarat, a famous city in Australia. Just like that. In two logical steps, he took a weird sound and a half-spoken word and identified the killer's hometown. The case was basically solved. That right there is the power of deduction. But here's the thing. Holmes was never one of those guys who just sat in a chair and solved things in his head.
A great idea is worthless if you don't act on it. And that brings us to the third part of his method, turning all that thought into action. Proactive, decisive, and, well, often not exactly legal.
I mean, look at his toolkit. The guy was a master of disguise. He'd dress up like a drunken stable hand just to overhear some gossip. He would set these ingenious psychological traps, like shouting fire in a house just to see which precious item a suspect would run to save. He'd organize an illegal stakeout in a bank vault, no problem. And yeah, he was more than willing to get into a physical scrap if it meant getting the evidence. And this little chat with Watson just sums up his whole attitude perfectly. Watson's all like, "You don't mind breaking the law?" And Holmes just says, "Not in the least." For him, the actual written law was flexible. What mattered was real justice. If he had to bend the rules for a good cause, you better believe he was going to do it. So, we've got observation, deduction, and action. Those are the three big pieces, right? But when you put them all together, you get more than just a process. You get a complete mindset, a totally different way of seeing the world. And that's the real secret to his genius. And this right here is his core philosophy. Depend upon it, there is nothing so unnatural as the commonplace. Think about that. Most of us are trained to just ignore the everyday stuff. It's boring, it's normal, but Holmes, he believed the opposite. He knew that the most ordinary-looking situations are often hiding the weirdest, most incredible secrets. And that's really the big takeaway here, isn't it? The secret of Sherlock Holmes isn't some unobtainable magical power. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to all of us to stop just passively seeing and to start actively observing, to question things, to find the extraordinary that's hiding in the mundane all around us every single day. As Holmes said, the world is full of obvious things which nobody, by any chance, ever observes. The clues to a more interesting, more fascinating world are always there. We just miss them. So the real question I want to leave you with isn't about Sherlock Holmes. It's about you. What did you miss today?